So today I wanted to talk about the fall of ancient civilizations. Yeah, that's a big subject. But what I've noticed is that with client regressions this year, especially since about the middle of the year, they were starting to have memories of times where they were involved in great destruction, or where they had memories of ancient civilizations and apocalypses. So it was quite interesting that this theme was coming up, but it was also coming up in the energy readings. I was always getting told about Noah and the Great Flood and ice caps and the freeze and the kind of the Great Freeze that happened 12,000 years ago. So it was no surprise then when I started seeing a new documentary on Netflix called the Ancient Apocalypse, which is really quite fascinating because it kind of reaffirmed a lot of things that I'd been seeing. And it wasn't just me, because in the work I was doing with Ava and Alicia of Crystalline Ascension, we were seeing the same things. So it became obvious that this was some sort of wound coming up to be healed. Now, we've all worked on our witch wound, or at least most of us who already are light workers and healers know about the witch wound, the time where we were burnt at the stake for using our powers. Well, what's come to my attention is I kind of feel like this ancient civilization, the fall of this ancient civilization, is the kind of underlying energy that led to the witch wound. So this kind of comes before, and I'm a great believer in going back to source and really pulling out that brick right at the very bottom that brings the rest tumbling down. And I'm also don't believe in coincidences, that all my clients are seeing these memories and I'm getting dreams and visions of it as well. And then there's this great series on TV. So all the coincidences are adding up. Now, I'm saying ancient civilizations rather than Atlantis because it kind of felt like Atlantis was part of it, but it wasn't the only part of it. There were other aspects to this as well. And we all know at the same time of Atlantis, we had Lemuria as well, which also disappeared. But we don't know how many other civilizations there were. And listening to the series on Netflix, it takes you back 12,000 years ago when allegedly a meteor hit the planet and caused a great freeze, and kind of like a mini ice age. And during that time, it was believed that possibly some cultures and ancient civilizations were wiped out. And they do lead into Atlantis and sort of go to the monuments that are called the Road to Atlantis. But for me, the feelings that came with that were much more vaster. This might be ancient civilizations on Earth. It could be galactic ancient civilizations. I couldn't quite pin it down, not having anything to like in my knowledge that assists with this. But it was really obvious that it was important. And then in about June, we got this kind of sensation that the old is finished and the new is starting. Stop fighting what you don't want, start creating what you do. And it was a very, almost like a rude ending to this process, because it wasn't like, well done, you've got here, you're at this next stage of ascension, which is kind of what aligns with all of this. It was more like, come on, we've got to get on to the next phase. No time to dilly-dally celebrating what you've done. Just forget it now, it's done. Push it away. And then move into the next part of what we're here to do, which is now co-creating the future. And what was starting to become really obvious at this time as well was these insights were becoming more like easier to find. Things that I'd been struggling with, that I'd tried to remove, that were blocking me and my spiritual journey and my ascension journey, were suddenly like having clarity and explanations, all kind of related to these ancient civilization falls, but still like, yeah, the reason you can't do this is because your energetic system was manipulated so that you were not able to hold your own energy because you were part of a conduit where energy was being transmuted through you, and they disabled that part of your energy system. Well, it's time to turn it back on now, which is quite a kind of bizarre comment or insight to get when you're trying to do perhaps very 3D type healing. And the way it's feeling is that our happiness, our ability to be in full control of our spiritual skills, to be able to hold on to our energy, to be able to do this work in a more conscious way for ourselves rather than an unconscious way for humanity, was all coming to the surface to be resolved. And we started putting the pieces together and taking these soul journeys. And a soul journey to me is where we go to investigate the divine intelligence of a certain issue that's blocking us in the current day, pulling all the pieces together, finding the frequencies that need to be changed, the architecture that needs changing, and then putting it all together into a new format so that we can become an evolved light worker ready for the next phase. And we've been calling this spiritual liberation. So any of our posts that you've seen so far from Alicia, from Ava, from myself, have all been about this spiritual liberation. And it's quite interesting because I've just done December's energy reading, and the outlook is liberation. So we're kind of going there, and the rainbow and the gold energy for January. So it sounds like everything we've been going through up to now was kind of trying to bring our attention to that wound, that ancient civilization wound. And I'm not sure if everybody else has kind of get that feeling like they feel more blocked than before, or they feel like they're now unwilling to keep giving and people pleasing and overcompensating. Those sort of behaviors now are becoming less tolerable. And that's the kind of like the 3D way it was showing up for me as well. Is that like the perfectionism? Like I had to get everything right because if I didn't, the world was going to end. It wasn't even a logical or psychological explanation. It felt like the world was going to end, which discovered I blew up a planet. So, so when you see these visualizations from these journeys and regressions, you don't believe them sometimes. But all I can believe is that when that was fixed, I didn't have that feeling anymore. And that's all any spiritual work can ever aim for, is to give you that feeling, that inner change in who you feel you are and what you can achieve. And I think the reason this is really, really important right now is because part of this ascension process is about us gaining more of our multidimensional soul into our human body. So our body has to evolve and change. And also we have to, like we're growing to receive more gifts, more of our psychic abilities. Now, if we've still got this ancient civilization wound, how are we going to step into that energy? How are we going to be happy using them, knowing the power that they're bringing, when we also still hold on to the fear of what happened the last time we stepped into that power? So I can ask you now, if you feel like any of this is resonating with you, then check out the link on this video, because we've been creating a workshop. It's 4.5 hours, and we take you through the different lifetimes where you felt that maybe you were involved in the fall of a civilization. We clear that wound and we put in a new truth, but we also add in some new gifts, and then we integrate them into the future, where we go to visit the future now to see how this is going to work out for us. And I think even if you don't join us on one of these weekends, then that's the work we all need to be looking at right now. Because I think that brick right at the very bottom of all the other layers that are built up to the witch wound to where we are today are ready to come crumbling down. And you just need to find the right path through that so that you can step into your power and be seen and heard and valued for the skills that you're here to birth for the new earth. So I'm Trudy, I'm White Star Soul Guidance, and I hope what I've spoken about today resonates with you, or at least gives you some insights on your awareness of your soul mission at this time.